Was I wrong about indexed annuities? Something has been thinking a lot about. So let me share with you the construct here, the context, whatever that word is. All right, so I came across this on my LinkedIn by this guy named Perry Lee. And he says he's an agency builder, annuities, and I think that's insurance. All right, he seems like a nice person. I get this question a lot. Which one do you have, Mr. Lee? And I have a couple of permanent life insurance policies and a couple of term policies as well. So he's going to share with us one of his permanent life insurance policies here. On one of my permanent policies, I recently got the annual statement. On one of my policies I've had for roughly 6 to 7 years now, I've received a 9% return. That's great news. And if the market were to go through a recession or any event causing negative performance, I would just get zero, protected from market losses. And so here's the three numbers that are important. What is this? It's an S&P 500 index strategy point to point, which just simply says we take the S&P 500, what the value is on day one, like for instance right now, well I think it actually shows on this. The S&P 500, the point when he took this policy out in 2022 was at 38.78. The following year is at 47.46. All right. So we take our trusty calculator, which I don't have. I don't think I thought I had it over here. All right, we're just going to do it on this thing. I'm going to do it on my phone here. So we take 47.46 minus, hold on a second, 47.46 minus 3878. All right, divided by 3878. So over that time, the S&P 500 the points was up by 22%. That's not including dividends. I just want to be very clear to you. So this does not include dividends, just point to point. That's always been a pet peeve of mine, not to include dividends. Now he made 9%. All right, so the market was up 22%. He made 9%, because that's the max you can get, and you get 100% earnings participation rate up to 9%. And so he got his 9%. So then my man, oops, hold on a second. My man Andy, what happened to it? Posted this illustration of a 50-50 stock to bond portfolio invested in the year 2000. All right. And the reason we're using the year 2000, because this first 10 years was the worst you could probably, I mean, other than the Great Depression, which had deflation, but other than that, it was the worst 10 years you could possibly choose in the United States. Because we had inflation. You can see, here's our inflation numbers. Now, we did not have deflation. And so what Andy does is he said, I'm going to take 4% a year withdrawals from this portfolio. All right, and it's 50-50 stocks and bonds. So I got million schmackaroonies as our starting value. I'm going to take $40,000 a year adjusted for inflation with a CPU. So you can see the S&P 500 fell 9% the first year, but the bonds are up 11.6%. So we're going to take $40,000 out. But because the bonds outdid the S&P, we actually still made money in the portfolio. Not much, not enough to recover the $40,000 we took out. All right, so we took out $1 million minus $40,000 is $960. Plus we made $12,144, and we have an ending portfolio value of $972,000. These another 2 years, the bonds got dwarfed by stocks. The stocks were down 12 and 22. The bonds were up 8.5 and 10. Inflation went from 3.4 to 2.8 to 1.6. So our withdrawal rate went from 40,000 to 41 to 42,000. So we actually ended up losing money in our portfolio to the extent that after the end of the year 3, we're down to 820. All right. And then we started making money. All right. So now we're just up. We're still pulling the 4% a year from the initial portfolio value, 4% a year for the initial portfolio value adjusted for inflation. That by the end of year 2008, which is what everyone's concerned with, we were down because look, we lost $144,000 in 2008 because the S&P 500 just got destroyed. Bonds did fine, but the S&P 500 didn't. So we were down to 766. Again, it's a 50-50 portfolio. All right, so you can see right there, 766. Then we had, then here at 2009, we had deflation a little bit, and so we actually reduced our withdrawal from 51728 to 51525. Then we had a little bit of right here. We just had a 0.1% in 2015 inflation, not much. So when all is said and done, and then right here, the 2022, we actually lost more in 2022 than we did in 2008 because while the stocks were down 18%, the bonds were down 13%. So that's the first time, well, 2018, stocks and bonds were also down, but not to the extent that happened in 2022. But even then, we're back up above $1 million, and we took all this money out right here. So by the end of 2023, we're taking $70,000 out, and our portfolio was worth almost exactly the amount we started with. And so that's pretty good, right? So we got $997,000 left in the portfolio. But then I said to myself, what happens if we just, let me show you what I'm talking about. What if we put it all in the S&P 500? All right, so if we put it all in the S&P 500, and then our $1 million, so I'm doing the same thing Andy did here. I'm taking the inflation rate. I'm taking the S&P 500 rate. And we're just doing the exact same thing Andy did, but we're not having any bonds. We're just doing the S&P 500. Now we're down to 252,000. All right, so the S&P 500, we're down to 252. And the reason that stinks is because you can see right here, in 2022, we went from 398,000 to 270,000. And in 2023, went to 252. Even though we had a 26% rate of return, there wasn't enough money in the portfolio to cover our $70,000 of expenses. We're still pulling the principal. All right, so we're even though we got 26%, we only got 26% on $200,000. All right, but we're pulling 70,000 out. So 26% on $200,000 isn't going to do the. We're now in the death throes because that's 100% S&P 500. Now, if we did the same thing compared to that 9% point to point, and here we got index annuity, and so we're not going to lose any money. So a zero loss is 1. All right, so 1.09 is the max we can get. 0.09%, that's a 9% rate of return. A 1 is just breaking even. We don't make any money. We're still pulling money out of the portfolio, but we're not making any money. So here's our index annuity. At the end of the 24 years, we still got $870,000 in the index annuity. All right. I mean, that's not quite as good as if we had a 50-50 portfolio that my man Andy was just showing. I don't know if I have it up here anymore. But, I mean, that 50-50 portfolio, you got to be like, are you really going to rebalance it that much? I don't know. I don't think you're going to. I think that sounds good in theory. I'm just going to rebalance it, once every year to make it 50-50? Are you really going to do that? Where does the money come from the portfolio? And I don't know how this works in terms of withdrawing from the index annuity. I have no clue. And I don't even know if the 9% cap, no dividends. And by the way, I didn't use dividends in here either. As you can see, I had. So if the market, the S&P 500 was down 9.1. Let me just make this bigger so y'all can see it. So the S&P 500 was down 9.1 in 2000. It was down 10.14 without dividends in 2000. It's down 11.9 without dividends. It's down 13.0 without dividends. In 2004, it was up 28%. It was only up 26% because without dividends. So without dividends, we're taking about 2% a year off. Anyway, it's interesting because Andy's thing had us with a $977,000 left. I got us with $870,000 left. And Andy's thing is a specific 50-50 stock to bonds. And then again, you're gonna have to pull the money out from what exactly? Proportionally, yes, it's $100,000 less, I grant you. But what if you did 70-30? You see what I'm saying? Or what if you did 30-70? This index annuity, if you can get it 9%, that worked pretty well, man. That's just a fact. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Now that includes, I presume it includes all fees. 9%, I would think that includes all fees and all that stuff. So now we'll do 1.07. Because I don't know how these things work. Now, because what this guy, Percy, what's his name? Percy Jackson? Oh, Perry Lee? Percy Jackson. This is a life insurance amount. He has, where does it say life insurance? Could have sworn he said life insurance on here. Yeah, he has a permanent life. So this might even be more expensive because there's insured life right here. Insured Percy Jackson. Because even here, it's an insurance, which means there's a death benefit, which means there's a cost of insurance that goes with this. So, and index annuities won't have that because there's no death benefit. It's just whatever the policy is. But here's, presumably, there's a life insurance component above and beyond the cash value. Pretty interesting to me. And and even Roger Ibbotson said we'd look at index annuities as a bond replacement, not a stock replacement. But here we are comparing ourselves to a 50-50 stock to bond portfolio. And in the worst markets we've had the first 10 years, but the last 15 years, the markets have stopped. We're up, I'm just looking from 2000. So check this out. Since Trump got in office, we're up 22, down 4, up 31, up 18, up 28, down 18, up 26. This is the last, basically since Trump and Sniffy Joe. I mean, that's some pretty good returns there. Obama's second term, 16, 32, 13, 1. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's some freaking kick-ass take-name numbers, man. So, yes, the first 10 years weren't great, but the second 10 years are freaking spot on. We're stellar. I don't know. I'm starting to think maybe that index annuity has a place for you. I really am. And I'll probably actually include this video in my course because I did a video on index annuities and I wasn't that negative on it. I mean, because I'm not negative on anything necessarily. I mean, there's no such thing as an evil product. You just got to know how it works. And again, I'm not sure that this index annuity can allow you to take the 4% out a year. I would think it can. I don't know that for a fact. But if true, I'm keen on it for sure. I mean, again, this is better than a bond replacement. Because if we just did bonds in that portfolio, our index annuity would have done better. Because it would know. I mean, we had a 9%. When the markets were up, we got 9%. As long as the markets are above 9. If the markets are up 5, we got 5. If the markets are up, and again, I assume that's the way it works. I don't sell annuities. I don't know if they say, hey, I mean, here's what I got. Here's what I'm going to show you what I was doing here. You can see if the market was only up 3, I only gave you 3% because it said 100% participation rate. I assume that's the way it goes. So here's 3.53. Anyway, very interesting to me. And then the question is, what happens if I change these 9s to 7s? So check this. Even here with a 7% cap, we're still got $500,000. I mean, is that great? No, but that's not. I mean, look, man, the worst case scenario we start with $1 million. We were down to, in the first 10 years, there's just no sequence of return risk here. I tell you, man, that's the big deal. The sequence of return risk is eliminated in an index annuity. That's just a fact. Now, obviously, if you're looking for growth and you only need growth, an index annuity isn't your friend because it does give you caps on the upside, just a fact. But when it comes to distribution, I don't know, man. I mean, look, we're down to, at the end of 2003, we still had 800. At 2002, we still had 877 in our portfolio. What did Andy's have? Well, in 2002, Andy's had 820. My man Perry Winkle had, what do we say? 877. What did Andy have again? 820. Is that what he said? 820. So we had 57,000 more than he did. How about the end of 20 right here? The end of 2008, we had 832. What did Andy have in his? Oh boy, there's a loudmouth McGee. At the end of 2008, Andy had 766, and again, that's with a 50-50 portfolio. I don't know. That's of interest to me. That would be something that you'd want to talk to an expert about because I'm not. I don't have any insurance license anymore. I don't know how these work in terms of what kind of rates you can get, participation, cap rates, and all that. But I think these have an opportunity to be looked at for sure. All right, love your thoughts. If you have an index annuity, let me know your experience. I'd love to hear it because again, I'm ignorant. So, see ya.